Hello, welcome to USA Global TV and Radio. My name is Caroline Heward and I'm known as the Harley Street Stress Expert. Our show today is Talking Heads. I'm an expert presenter on today's topic, which is intimacy. It's all about your intimacy. Are you experiencing intimacy? So let's begin. I want to start off with a quote from John Lennon. And I felt that this was a good place to start. And in the end, the love you take is equal to the love you make. And in the end, the love you take is equal to the love you make. What's really interesting about this quote is that we tend to think about intimacy in the parameters of sex. Now, I wasn't even going to mention the word, but I feel that I can't discuss a topic called intimacy without bringing up the word sex, because you could be forgiven for thinking that's what it is. But during this presentation, I will show you that it's really not about what we think it's all about. So are you one of those people that are conversing and saying, my better half or the other half? I've frequently been introduced to people saying, oh, this is my better half. Oh, this is my glamorous half. Or this is my other half. Are you looking for the other half of you? It's a rhetorical question, and I really want you to consider the answer personally. Are you looking for the other half of you? Because if you are, therein lies the challenges about looking and experiencing intimacy. Because if you're looking for somebody to complete you, what you're saying is you don't feel complete. And if you're not coming through as a complete and whole person because you need someone else, another half, to complete you, then really you're going to find another only half of a person that's only half willing to give themselves to you. This is a very, very common expression. So common, I felt that it was important to give it credibility, because so many people say my better half, or my other half, or my glamorous half, or I'm looking for my soulmate. I'm looking for the person that completes me. If you are looking for that person to complete you, you're going to find that they're going to be only offering half of them as you are only offering half of you. Crazy or not, it really is. Because if you need somebody to complete you, you are not giving yourself the best opportunity of being whole for yourself or the other person. You're shortchanging you and the other person. So let's look a little bit deeper about looking for your other half. Let's look at a self-love deficit. Now, when you are in a deficit of self-love, there will be an overwhelm of relationships, an overwhelm of situations within relationships. Now, I'm looking at all relationships are relationships. It doesn't matter whether they're intimate, friendships, relationships with the family. We are relating to everything and everyone. You don't suddenly change in one relationship. You will be the same anywhere you are, because it's you that's showing up. It's you that's turning up as you in every aspect of your life. And if there is a deficit in self-love, you will have an experience of being completely overwhelmed in life, in life's challenges, and finding it difficult to cope with situations, circumstances, friendships, communication, and feeling not heard in terms of your experiences within those relationships. There also will be a behaviour of comparing yourself to other people. Now, we see a lot of this on social media where we have to conform or perform. So we have to look the greatest we can possibly be at every opportunity. And the way that social media portrays that is selfies. We have to look the greatest that we can be in a selfie. And so certainly our younger children are always taking selfies. Now, when you're looking at social media as an example, what happens is that a lot of people tend to put their best foot forward. They tend to put their greatest moments. So you could be forgiven for thinking that their world is absolutely perfect and that they live this perfect life. And actually, they're just as human as you are. But all you're seeing is the great life that they're displaying in their social media pages. Now, I know that this can cause a serious amount of comparing, of analysing your life against theirs and thinking that you're not good enough. I have had many conversations with young people feeling not good enough because they're comparing themselves with somebody that they're following, or somebody that's always on point, and somebody that always looks good wherever they are. And so their whole life becomes what I look like versus what I feel like, what I feel as a person. It's all about your external image. So this comparing and contrasting, we are all different and we all are human experiencing life. So it is important to understand that when we compare, we diminish ourselves completely. Because when you are going into the place of comparing yourself against another person, you don't have all the attributes. It's like comparing a banana with a carrot. They sort of kind of look similar in shape, sort of, different colour, and a completely different taste. They both have skins in a different way, but the experience of eating them is totally different. So how can you compare a banana with a carrot? It's not so easy. But this is what we're doing as human beings. We're comparing ourselves one human being to another. And we're never going to match up as being good enough because somebody else's life is always going to look greater than yours. This comparing and contrasting will create an incredible sense of isolation. You will be surprised how in this comparing and contrasting, well, they have a better holiday than me. They're always on holiday. They seem to be out for really glamorous meals. They always look good. Oh, don't they look loved up? All this stuff that we compare and contrast about what we don't feel in our lives or we see in our lives will create a huge isolation and a deficit of an experience of feeling whole. When we are in a self-love deficit, this will create unhealthy relationships, whether they be professional, whether they be friendships or intimate. This will create a codependency in some of our relationships that will create a challenge for both parties. Because when there is a codependency, so you need the other person to be whole, or the other person needs you to be whole, this will create some problems in terms of you being your true self, your true authentic self. This codependency of needing the other person to be in your life will obviously operate in a space of making poor choices about who you are being and what feels good for you and what doesn't feel good for you. So all of this doesn't look very good. You know, the overwhelm, the isolation, codependency. And if you put all of that together, it's a recipe for anxiety and depression. And these two routes are escape routes into the mind. So self-love, when it's not there, when you don't love yourself, this is what I'm talking about. Self-love, when you don't love yourself, this road leads to depression and anxiety. And that's an escape into the mind where you feel nothing. You're talking a good talk in the mind that creates a depression if you're looking at past stuff, or an anxiety if you're looking at future stuff. So in a self-love deficit, things are not healthy for you or the other person. I want to look at what intimacy is really all about. Intimacy breaks down into me see. Let me say that again. Into me see. So I started off saying I'm not going to be talking about sex. This is the word that we think about when we think about intimacy. But the intimacy that I'm going to be talking about is the intimacy of ourselves. If we can't love ourselves and we can't get into an intimate place with ourselves, how on earth can we expect somebody else to get into a place of intimacy with us? If you can't stand your own company, being on your own, how can you possibly thrust yourself on someone else? And a lot of us don't like being in our own company. We do anything we can to be in somebody else's company. We do so much to escape our true world and our true reality that we challenge ourselves by looking external to ourselves to find that person to complete us, or that person that makes us feel whole. So breaking down intimacy into me see. Everything that you're complaining about in your external world is really something that's going on for you in your internal world. Now I know that's kind of a hard chestnut to crack. If you are feeling that you're not getting that love in your external world from your partner, from your friends, it is because there is a lack of self-love internally for you. I know it's bizarre, isn't it? I walked around in my then marriage looking for that reflection, expecting to be told that I'm loved, which would make me feel better. I learned a lot after the marriage broke up, because the more that I asked to be loved, the more that I asked to be shown affection, the less that I experienced it. And the more it made me feel depressed and anxious and feeling not good enough, because I was looking externally to myself for that endorsement, for that, yes, you are good enough. Yes, you have a good image. Yes, you are confident. Yes, I do love you. But if you don't love you, how can the other person love you? I know it sounds absolutely crazy, but if you are walking around in anger, we are going to attract another angry person. If we are walking around in sadness, we are going to attract another person in a space of sadness. They will have their own anger and their own sadness. But this is a frequency. Everything is frequency. And when you literally fall in love with yourself, with every part of your being, when you are comfortable being you, the you that you are showing up to be as your authentic self, when you are truly comfortable in being your authentic being, something incredible will happen in your external world. People will come from all aspects of your life wanting to be in your space. You will have what I call that magicness. I've heard the term charisma, presence. You know, when somebody walks in the room and everybody turns around and they notice them and they didn't say anything. And it's not so much the look either. There's presence, there's an energy, a frequency about them that people stop. They stop and they want to connect. And the reason they want to connect with you is because they feel you as whole. They feel you as somebody that's together. Even if you don't feel good and you suppress it, you push it down, it will express energetically, because everything is energy. Everything is frequency. So it doesn't matter how much you say or don't say about what is working for you and what isn't working for you. Your frequency, it's like a radio dial. And if you're a radio high wave, you will attract people on radio high wave. If you're on radio low wave, you will attract frequency on radio low wave. It'll be very hard for you to attract people that when you're on radio low wave to radio high wave. No matter how hard you try, no matter what you do, no matter how much you slog at making that impression, though it will be a false impression because you're not being your authentic you to you. And I know this sounds really crazy because there's so much out there about looking at our external, how we look, how we present ourselves, what clothes we're wearing, how is our hair, how is our makeup for the women, what aftershave are we wearing for the men, what jewelry should we wear. All this is external. But if the internal is not matching the external, it doesn't matter how much you adorn your external, the internal world will show. So above as below. Whatever people see on the surface will also be what they see underneath. So even though you feel that you're doing a great job of showing up to be the best that you can be, physically, externally, that internal stuff, what's below, from a frequency perspective, will show up. So if you are feeling unconfident, for an example, what will happen is that you will attract somebody else that's not confident. If you are experiencing something that says to you, I don't feel good enough, in whatever aspect of life you're in, and whatever aspect that shows up in for you, you will find that the other people that you connect with will be the same. It's crazy, but like attracts like. Frequency attracts frequency. And if you're not sure what's going on for you, check out what's showing up in your external world. So then you were thinking, well, this was all going to be about sex. Well, I went to some counsellors and some marriage guidance counsellors, and I found some really, really interesting facts. And that is that if you can't make love to yourself, how on earth can someone make love to you? If you don't feel a sensitivity of pleasure in your own body, if your own body is if you're repellent of your own body in terms of image or functionality, looks, or symptoms, this will show up in your external world. It's really, really important to know this, because most people will be looking at their external, what they want, what they need to complete them. But actually, it's what we need to complete ourselves. So the level of the journey of intimacy is a private journey. It's so intimate that there's you and only you alone. And when you've travelled in that journey of intimacy, when you really feel comfortable to be who you truly, authentically show up to be, something quite magical happens in your external world. And this isn't just about being in the bedroom. This is about the friendships, the connections, how you connect with your family, how you show up in any aspect of your life, whether it be professional, friendships, business, or whether it be in your intimate relationships. How you show up in one aspect is how you show up everywhere else. There is no different person. You might think that you present differently in different aspects of your life, but really people see through that because they see through to the real you. Into me see. If you are angry at somebody, there is some unexpressed anger in you. If you are judging someone externally, there is some internal judgment that you're making of yourself. If you are sad, if there is somebody that's being very sad with you externally, there will be an unexpressed sadness within you. We might not even recognize it straight away. We might not even feel that that's us. We might just say something like, oh, I don't know what's the matter with everybody. Everybody's sad around me. Everybody's angry around me. But you're the common person in each situation. The other person is different in each situation. But you're the common thread. You're the one that's in each of the situations of the relationships. We are relating to everything and everyone. And just because we're seeing in our external world things that aren't so great, if we focus on those things, we will create more of what we're focusing on. I know this might sound absolutely bizarre, because generally when we hear the word intimacy, we're really looking at that relationship, that intimate relationship, that physical relationship. And yes, of course, it is that too. But when the external relationship, the intimate relationship doesn't work, it's because there's something within us that's moving in a way that doesn't work. That there's a lack of self-intimacy, a lack of self-love. And certainly being British, I can tell you that this is not something we talk about. We don't talk about self-love very often. It's on the agenda, but it's a bit, sort of, oh, we can't do that. That's not sort of PC. So we don't talk about self-love. We talk about, sort of each relationship's not good, or it doesn't work, or all women are the same, all men are the same. So we're always looking at our external and complaining about each relationship in our external world. But whatever you are experiencing in your perception, so whatever you perceive, is your projection. Let me say that again. whatever you perceive, and you'll be seeing this regularly, whatever you're perceiving regularly in your friendships, your relationships, is generally you're seeing it because there's a projection. Because we see everything through our own filters. Everything is us. And so what will happen is that if there is elevated emotions such as gratitude and kindness, would you believe me if I told you that you're going to get more of that back? So my invitation in this journey of intimacy with yourself is to be really kind. Literally cloak yourself with kindness and love. So the keys to self-love are to literally be devoted to yourself. When you are thoroughly devoted to you as a person, for what you believe, what you feel in life, someone else will love you just as much as you love you for what you believe in. I remember in school, it's less about self and more about your external, how you're reacting to other people. You know, are you the one in your school reports that they're saying that you're a bit of a daydreamer, always looking out the window, not very focused or concentrating on your work? A talker, always talking, wanting to be center of attention and not completing the tasks of the homework. Were you that person in school that the reports commented on in this way? If you were, your external world is reflecting your internal. Self-love is a challenge because we're not taught to love ourselves in every aspect that we need to be. We're usually denigrating ourselves. We're usually telling ourselves that we're not good enough, my hair's not right, my makeup's not right, we're sort of complaining about our weight. And so this is where self-love doesn't even, it's all hijacked. It's like the pirates have taken over and hijacked your self-love. And then you go into your external world looking for those things that you don't give to yourself. It's sad and very true that unless we love ourselves, there is a very difficult road to being loved by another. Even if it's a parent, a sibling. This journey of self-love really is a journey, a real journey that we all need to take to find that incredible relationship, partner, friendship. Because if there's no self-love and we're looking for it external to us, nobody is going to give us that self-love. Let's look at some components of self-love. Forgiveness. And I'm not talking about forgiveness external, and obviously that's the greatest one, but forgiveness of ourselves. Because usually we're, as I mentioned earlier on, our own worst enemy. And when we are unforgiving, I should have done this, I should have done that, oh, I did this wrong. When we are criticizing ourselves in this way, what happens is we will fill our energy field with a toxic vibration. It'll be very acidic and it will create all sorts of challenges within the body, physically, emotionally, mentally, and behaviourally. when we are not forgiving ourselves for a situation or someone else, it's like we hold a hot coal and we're holding it and burning ourselves. We're burning our hand with that hot coal of anger. And nobody is getting the benefit of that. And even if they've done you wrong, or you've done yourself wrong, you could have done better, and you really show up by saying, oh, this was really lousy. I should have got all my ducks in a row. I should have got this sorted. When you are too self-critical, it turns on you. And this is where the inner critic comes in, where we are our own worst enemy. Our own worst enemy would not speak to us the way we speak to ourselves. It is important to notice the words that we use. The inner critic will always be judging. It will always come back with, oh, that wasn't very good. You should have done it this way. Oh, yeah, loser. Always a loser. Oh, you're not very good at this. I don't know why you bother. Nobody's listening to you. The inner critic is there, and we all have this voice inside our head that's saying some things that we do our best to ignore. But if the inner critic has taken over, things will be bleak, things will be challenging in terms of your experiences in life. When there is loss in our lives, it creates a level of anger. Loss in terms of physical, somebody physically dying, loss of a friendship, loss of a home, a culture, a way, a career, loss of a job, loss of a pet, a child. It doesn't matter what level of loss it is. What matters is that each level of loss will move us into either a place of anger or a place of compassion. And if we're not handling that loss, that place of anger will create an acidic environment in our body. And when the body is very acidic, this can create difficulties in symptoms such as arthritis. It can give us very, very deep physical aches and pains. It can affect the digestive tract. It can give us all sorts of challenges in terms of eating disorders. And it can be difficult for anyone that in that place of loss is struggling, because this can close the heart chakra down. And when the heart chakra is closed down, then all that it will feel like is that you're in a battle every day. And this battle is an internal battle, which reflects in your external world. And when you're in that battle, it's really, really hard work. You're going to feel totally exhausted at the end of your day. Your boundaries will be challenged. You'll allow people to walk all over you when there is a lack of self-love. People will walk in and challenge you, and you become the yes person. Despite the fact that that time doesn't work for you, or the subject matter doesn't work for you, you'll become the yes person. Doesn't matter, because you want to be liked, you want to be loved. And so this lack of self-love will create poor boundaries. When you have a good quantity of self-love, your boundaries will be in perfection. You will have a balance of acceptance in your emotional state. You will move through your emotions and express your emotions easily, because the emotions are coming from the heart and expressed in the way that they should do. When we hold back on expressing our emotions physically, through thoughts and feelings, and emotionally, when we hold back, it literally affects us. When we don't cry, our body, our mind is in torture. And so my invitation for you is to move into a place of self-acceptance and allow what emotion comes up to release, whatever it is, because you will be surprised in expressing that emotion, whether it's anger, whether it's sadness, whether it's tears, whether it's joy, gratitude, whatever the emotion is, allow it to express. You'll be surprised how releasing it will be for you. You will also be surprised how much you will benefit by that releasing that specific emotion. Because the more you press it down and push it down, the more it expresses in your external world. And if you're not sure what you're suppressing, just look around you to see what's coming up for you in others. This is where you'll be able to tell whether you're pushing something down. Because if there is a place of complaining, oh, I'm sick and tired of his anger, there will be some unexpressed anger in you. There's 4 elements of self-love that I want to look at. The first one is self-awareness. Knowing what your issues are, knowing yourself, knowing what your boundaries are, knowing where things are good for you and where they're not good for you. Knowing who you really are, what feels right for you, what doesn't work for you, what works for you. When we go into a relationship, we sometimes lose our identity and we almost meld into the other person. I've seen people, they've got so together that they're walking around in the same sweatshirts, the same outfits, man and woman, and they're walking around almost like you couldn't tell them apart, like they really are together. And that's great in one aspect, but in another aspect, are you losing your identity to the other person? So self-awareness is really key. Being aware of yourself, your own emotions, your feelings when you express, when you hold back, when you are pushing down unexpressed emotions and how it affects you physically, mentally, and emotionally. Self-esteem. If we don't feel good enough, worthy enough, we are not going to attract another person that feels the same as us. So if we have a low self-esteem, we will attract somebody else that has a low self-esteem. So for self-love to work, your self-esteem needs to be the highest that it can be. Feeling good in your own company is the best recipe for you to move into a joyous relationship with yourself. Moving into self-worth. When you have a level of self-worth, you will be able to say no to things that don't work for you. You will have really good boundaries because you will know what works and what doesn't work. This all sounds very harsh and very challenging. And at the same time, I wished people taught this at school, because if we understood this, we would learn that how we are affects our lives, to ourselves and to others. And it will also affect our relationships within our families, siblings, parents, friendships. It's everything and everyone. So moving into a place of self-worth moves us into a place of self-honouring and self-care. Self-care is physical. So if you need to, go to the gym, take some exercise, eat good food. Yes, we're all human. We might want to taste that chocolate cake or some junk food now and again. And it's okay because we're human. It's all right to come off the track now and again. But if we do it all of the time, and if we live in junk food and eating lots of chocolate cake, that is not looking after the body. And so to indulge, it's completely okay, it's human. But to make sure that we contain our self-indulgences. Everything in balance. Self-care in all aspects of our life, whether it be physical, emotional, mental, behavioural, and spiritual. If you want to do a meditation and you're choosing between a meditation and getting drunk, you have to decide what brings you the greatest possible aspect of self-care. I call self-care my indulgence because it's the things that I love to do for myself that makes me feel amazing. And when I feel amazing, the world feels amazing around me. There are 4 areas of health. They're emotional, physical, psychological, and spiritual. And self-love impacts each of these areas in our lives. If we haven't got our mindset right, then we're going to have anxiety, depression, and stress. If we haven't got our emotional feelings right, we're going to have a suppression of emotions, or indeed we're going to have an over spill of emotions, which is also not good. So it's about being in balance. We can go to the gym too much and create an overindulgence that may have an effect on the body. We can escape into spiritualism, too much meditation, too much of being out of the body and not experiencing the body. We are here to have an experience as a human being. We are spirit having a human experience in a physical body. Your physical body requires nourishment emotionally, physically, spiritually, and psychologically. The words that we use are important because the words create spells. And if our inner talk is negative all of the time, we are literally creating spells. And when we use the words spelling, we're literally creating a spell upon ourselves and others. So my invitation for you is to create some wonderful spells for yourself and for others. My final thing I want to share with you is the use of saying no. When you say yes to others, make sure you are not saying no to yourself. Let me say that again. When you are saying yes to others, make sure you are not saying no to yourself. It's a quote by Paul Coelho. And I find this a really interesting quote Saying no to yourself means that you are betraying yourself. Sometimes saying yes to others all of the time means you're not saying yes to yourself some of the time. So learn to say no so that you have a better life and you can explore the things that are right for you. Thank you for your attention and your interest. Please subscribe to our YouTube channel, which is USA Global TV and Radio. You can find all our Talking Heads episodes under the playlist entitled Talking Heads 2022. You can find all my Talking Heads episodes under my name, Caroline Heward. Please do reach out to me if I may be of service to you. You can contact me on nomorestress@live.co.uk or call me if you are international +44. If you are local 07523 120 189. I am here to serve you. If you watch any of my other Talking Heads episodes, you will find incredible insights and advice and insights that will blow your mind into experiencing your life in a new way. It has been my pleasure to share today with you. Thank you. Namaste.